Hello everybody, it is me, Game Penguin 21, and today... Alright, this is going to be more of an interesting bit here. Now, I did a big old last month of the news thing, obviously, but I know some people here are more interested in the salt than anything else, so I decided to go back onto the cesspool of Twitter and get you some end-of-month salt. A lot of this is just going to be some random things that I just managed to scoop up off of the bottom of the barrel that is Twitter, just because I needed another video for this week. And quite honestly, I'm not sure how confident I am in the review that I'm going to be releasing, but that's going to be a next week video because I only want to record it. And, well, there was some pretty interesting things that were being talked about, and it does kind of relate to some news, and you will get some news as well. But overall, what are we talking about today? Well, we're going to be talking a little bit more about Nib, a little bit more about people's timelines, and having them respond to various memes and things that are, you know, some of the saltiest comments I've ever seen for some of these. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. But if you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form, like and subscribe is always appreciated. I'm looking to hit 1.5k by the end of the year. I do stream on Sunday, every Sunday at 12 p.m. EST. Come on by. We'll play some video games, see what's going on, see what's what. And more importantly, always be nice people to each other. With that being said, let's get started. Of course, starting off with Jacob Telkerson here, who basically screenshots Nib, and will get into him. I'm going to have him be one of the recurring characters, at least this episode of me ranting into this microphone. But we're going to start, of course, off with the Nib comment here, saying an SKU is a stock keeping unit. When I say SKU, I'm referring to a copy of the game that's a PC license and version, and on the console side, the one that's specific console license and version. Purchases are generally one or the other, except where Xbox is negotiate, or for paid multi-licensing play everywhere. Obviously, on first party, they can do it freely. The Rogue Xbox Ally, just like the standard Rogue Ally, is a PC SKU and a version playing device. All the PC handhelds are, hence they're described as such. If I buy the console version of Assassin's Creed Shadows, it will not work on a PC handheld. If I buy the PC version, however, it will hence a PC version. It's a pre-existing established platform with its own versions, SKUs of games. Okay, so I think in the entirety of that word salad is that he's basically talking about how the Rogue Ally Xbox version thing is going to be its own sort of platform, which, no, I really don't think that that's the case. It depends specifically on the type of game and where you specifically buy it. For a strange example, if you, say, have your Steam account and you buy the game on Steam, then you can really only play it on Steam or wherever Steam is available, or sort of on most of the platforms that are on a PC. That is true. The actual places where you buy it is one of the big things. Now, saying that if you buy the console version of the Xbox Shadows, it will not work on the PC handheld is actually kind of false, because buying it on at least the Xbox platform, from what I can tell here, so long as you buy it on the platform for, say, the Xbox itself, or the Xbox whole, platform thing, you can use it in its Play Anywhere thing, because it's part of, EA, or, no, maybe it's not. It's actually part of Ubisoft. So, you are basically going to be able to use it on, I think, the Xbox app. And that is usually available in most places. If you're saying, oh, well, I can't play it on, say, my Steam Deck because it runs Steam, that's true, because it's not running on the same technical, software platform. That's one of the big reasons why, if I were to say buy a game on the Epic Game Store, or, maybe not buy a game on the Epic Game Store, but, have a game on the Epic Game Store or GOG, that I can not then play it to the Steam store. And that's kind of true, but also kind of not. It's one of those things where what he's saying makes some sense, and I can see the logic here, but at the same time, no, it's not correct. Because as we can see here with Jacob Telkerson says, Nim doesn't understand how PCs work. How does a PC SKU made for Windows work with Steam OS? That alone blows up his argument. I'll save the counter for the debate. Great definition of a PC and console. Great definition of a PC and console. It's wrong. Yeah, it's one of those things where I can see maybe 1 or 2 points that might be correct, but trying to explain it to Nib, of all people, feels like it's trying to do an uphill battle of garbage. But moving down the Nib pain train here, we then have Xbox pushed player numbers and engagement so long, countless Xbox and PC fans no longer know the difference between most played and top paid engagement versus sales. We're also at a stage where people think 27, 30, and 13 top paid ranks are good for a tentpole new release. Lol. I mean, yes, in some cases, yes it is. Those numbers that you're doing is actually pretty solid. Anything usually within the top 50 at this point, in my mind, is actually not bad. Depending on the game, depending on everything else, is always fun and always good. In the last video that I posted about, say, top numbers here, I said that the finals had reached into the top 10 as a free-to-play game. That game has been on the market for years and has now gotten a sort of second wind because of the amount of people that actually support this game. So yes, numbers like being in the top 50 or even the top 100, at least on Steam, is insane. With Jacob here saying, breaking, Final Fantasy XVI is a tentpole release, currently ranked number 147 on the PlayStation Store, gaslighting at its finest. Again, I fully don't see why Nib keeps opening his mouth. The entirety of what he just said there is an entire word salad to say, all these things here, yeah, they're not good because they don't understand the difference between engagement versus sales. Bro, you don't understand the difference between engagement versus sales. Yeah, certainly. When you're talking about things such as player numbers and bringing up Steam numbers and saying, oh, this game's a failure because it only hit about 247,000 concurrent players on Steam. Right, but that 207 concurrent players on Steam, depends on a variety of contexts. And yeah, certainly, 247,000 on Steam is pretty kind of low if you look at some of the top dogs, but some of those top dogs are literally games that have been on the market for years with established communities that have grown over and over and consistently over the years. Whereas if a new release hits that same number, that's a pretty solid number, especially if it's, say, a single player game, or say if it's a game that you only really play through once or twice. Not everyone's going to be online at the same time because of the amount of times that it's a single player fucking game. If a multiplayer game hit that peak concurrent player count, that's even better in terms of that. So yes, those numbers you can use for concurrent and engagement and sales and whatnot can be good, but overall, your lack of knowledge is seeming to show here. Anyway, after, say, let's kicking a piece of garbage off, or kicking a can down the road, moving on to something else here, we go into Dom the Bomb with "Never forget the role Bungie had in taking this away from us," and he's actually talking about Last of Us Factions here. Just didn't get the screenshot into it. Paul Tassi says Bungie said it needed work and essentially explained to Naughty Dog what goes into managing a live service long term, and they didn't want to do that. We don't know what the fuck happened behind the scenes in the context of why The Last of Us Factions was canceled. The problem is that it was canceled in the first place, pretty much thanks to Bungie explaining all of this. Yeah, most definitely, that could be one of the reasons why, but at the same time, Bungie seemingly doesn't know how to run an online service game. And I still don't get why they were listened to. Yeah, certainly. They've been running the game Destiny for a while now, but they've been plagued with controversies and bad calls. And yeah, they've had the one good, successful game, I guess, but that's really only because it's been kind of pseudo successful. It's one of those things where, yeah, certainly they have a lot of experience maybe in that game department, but at the same time, I don't see why at all it's a good thing that they were one of the reasons why most of the live service games got fucking canceled. And why games like Concord and games like Marathon, things with very little, if any, actual, like, market power, market appeal, I guess, came into fruition. Like, who doesn't want a Last of Us Factions multiplayer? I would have loved that, despite the fact that I don't really like The Last of Us. The Last of Us Factions could have been really cool, but no. Obviously, that's not what happened. So, despite the fact that while what you're not saying is wrong, it's still dumb and kind of a little annoying. Next up here, we have Astro Cyborg talking about how MBG has been talking about Sony considering acquiring WB Games, and how, for at least the question here being, are acquisitions good now? I always find it funny how, again, Sony trying to maybe consider acquiring WB Games or acquiring another studio is actually a good thing. So, yeah. Also, Marathon did seemingly get delayed, which, okay. But next up here, we have another post from someone retweeting the sort of AMD Rogue Ally thing. This was also under some controversy as well. With maybe not controversy is not the good question. I'm more talking about how this person did it, and I didn't do this. This is someone else's screenshot. But basically, this person says next level, and then announcing their whole partnership with Rogue Ally and AMD, which, you know, good for Xbox partnering with people. Where Buck Breaker here at the bottom says Xmuts don't buy games. Said to see Square. Said. I'm assuming that's supposed to say sad to see Square betray PlayStation fans like this. Wow. Just wow. I find it hilarious how this person's like, the Xbox people don't play games. And it's sad to see Square getting betrayed by PlayStation when they're talking about, say, AMD, and how Square came out and said, hey, you know that exclusivity contract? Yeah, that sucks. We have actually had a massive hit to sales. We're not going to be exclusive to PlayStation anymore. That means that the PlayStation guys, the PlayStation community, wasn't buying the games enough to help with the sales. And Xbox guys don't buy games. I mean, dude. But moving on, there was another one. It was under that same comment. I just didn't capture it here. But Valenair Entertainment with a, you guys must forget that if it wasn't for Sony, you guys wouldn't be here today. Just remember who helped with your merger and who saved the OG Final Fantasy VII, as it was the first Final Fantasy that evolved graphics because of compact discs. Good luck with Microsoft. Again, I find it funny how they are, I think this is again the same thing with AMD, right? AMD, which has nothing at all to do with Final Fantasy, as far as I can tell. It's just a graphics department. If it had to do with, say, I don't know, if it had to do with actual Square teaming up with Xbox and that was shown in this trailer, again, this screenshot is the one that I pulled here, then maybe, but at the same time, saying that it was betraying them and how it was like, oh yeah, we had this amazing Final Fantasy thing. Congratulations. Past successes does not lead to future successes. And again, from Square themselves, they've taken a hit with exclusivity to Sony exclusively. And when they released their games on other platforms, they were pretty massive successes. So, at the same time, saying, oh yeah, they're working with this people now. Yeah, they're putting their games on PC as well. It's not just them putting it on Xbox. And you're making this entire thing saying that, oh, these guys here, they're bad because they're such a small part of the market. We're a massive part of the market and we win because we're Sony and PlayStation buy games. Even though, again, it was said that there wasn't enough to be sustainably exclusive on PlayStation. Funny how that works. Next up here we have Tom Warren. This is one of the big ones that I wanted to talk about here, saying AMD says it will go beyond building custom chips for Xbox consoles, combine the power of blah blah blah. Basically the same kind of thing as last time, but here's some of the replies to that because there's a lot of funny ones here. With Warhammer Dave says, we got bamboozled by Xbox exclusives again. It's gonna be only third-party Xboxes made by Microsoft. No longer will produce Xbox hardware. I mean, again, they worked alongside the Rogue Ally and AMD. So I don't just think that that's a good thing if they have like the hardware for it, but at the same time, Xbox still has its own thing. But I was told, at least from both reliable and some unreliable sources, allegedly somewhere. Mainly, I found it on JTech TV's stream where he basically said, "Oh, don't trust the Rogue Ally X because it's not the actual handheld that was promised from Xbox," which I guess. But saying that it's only going to be third-party Xboxes made for it. So, what is the Rogue Ally an Xbox or not, or what's happening here? So, you know, it's just kind of strange how it's like, oh yeah, third-party Xbox things, despite the fact that, again, they have worked with them in order to make the actual console thing, or whatever the fuck. So, Next up here we have Edwin saying, if this was only for the Xbox hardware, it would have been crazy, but I think AMD will provide the same services to Sony. If not, I would be shocked. I'm not certain. I don't know, but this is actually one of those ones where it's not salty, it's just an interesting talking point saying, like, yeah, AMD might provide some of those services. I don't know, but I do think that it's interesting how AMD says specifically talking about Xbox in this context, but at the same time, well, you know, this is AMD and they're a hardware company, so, but they have worked with both sides, as far as I can tell, for pretty solid reasons, so interesting. Gizmo here says if only prices of these handheld systems weren't so damn expensive. That's true. Again, for at least AMD and their like Rogue series and a few of the other ones there, if you're having trouble with pricing stuff, I still think that for the price and for what you have, or what you get price-wise, the Steam Deck is still a very solid value at like $400. You might still be able to find them on secondhand market and refurbished from Steam if they still offer that program, though I'm not certain if they still do, but they made it fairly nice to actually buy it, and you can get like the Steam OLED for around $500, which is a little bit of a bump, has a lot of the same, or has a lot of similar, if a bit better specs, bumped up a little bit, and you get like around nearly 500 gigs of storage for that price, which is really good. Again, for a handheld, that's pretty solid. You can even go up to $600 to get 1 terabyte of actual things pre-installed on the actual game hard drive. So pretty good for that price. Now, the geek commenter here with a both things are true. Not only an Xbox in the traditional sense, but it's a device that will be called Xbox, which will be a PC with a console interface. Probably the best direction Microsoft can go at this point, because Xbox as a platform is dead. The brand can live on as this new device. This is interesting in response to this meme post by Nico here. Says your timeline for the next 72 hours, where it's like they announce a cool new Xbox, saying it's not an Xbox, repeated over and over and over again. I find it really funny how he says, yeah, both things are true. Where it's not an Xbox, you can also be excited for it because it's not an Xbox. It technically, or pretty much, is an Xbox because it's under the Xbox banner. It's not necessarily designed or made by Xbox, which, yeah, certainly. It's not a first-party-ish thing, maybe a second-party-ish thing. It's really one of those gray areas where, you know, the brand worked on it alongside the actual gaming, so alongside an actual hardware manufacturer, which is not uncommon and is not a thing that is bad. And I know that I said, like, oh yeah, Sony's joystick and Sony's fucking controller with a screen in between were both ass, and in my opinion they are kind of ass because they are more accessories than anything, and accessories that I don't think are warranted. But they do still have their positives, and I don't like trash on someone for actually, you know, liking it fully. I mean, if you like it, it's fine, but if you're trying to justify it, that's a different thing entirely. So there's a difference there. But quite interesting. Moving on with some of those other ones. It's a response to the same meme post from earlier with Jeremiah says, Xbox doing the smart thing and just blatantly making a PC so that only Sony and Nintendo will be consoles. They know they can't compete with PlayStation anymore. Must have been tough having 0 GOTY awards or even nominations for that matter. I always found it very weird how they obsess over, oh, they need to have these GOTY awards because that's how they know they're making good shit in the industry. Like, no, they can have success in their own way. I'm not sure how many Nintendo games were actually either nominated or, elected for actual game award stuff. It's just strange to me how it's like, oh yeah, we're making a pretty decent move, but now that Xbox as a concept is entirely dead, it's just kind of stupid. And I'm like, dude, who the fuck cares? Where Tyler Ghost here says, literally the only one saying this is you, Lamau. It's you're having an argument with yourself, which, again, I find it really funny because at the same time, looking at both the comment above and the previous comment saying no one is saying that it's not an Xbox. Sure it's not. Because, you know, Xbox is doing the start thing and making a PC because it's not an Xbox. So, again, it's like literally no one's making this argument. I've seen plenty of PlayStation guys making that exact argument of it's not an Xbox. Arcantoli, I don't know how to pronounce that specifically, saying people still really make console war memes. The only ones I see are against PlayStation, which is ironic. It kind of makes me think Xbox fans are the ones that are annoying over PlayStation. I mean, are you sure? Because there is not only entire podcasts that are dedicated to PlayStation and Xbox, obviously. Both sides are to blame for having those sort of long-ass podcasts, but the opinions of at least PlayStation guys is far worse and far more toxic, because this is not like the only example that I can think of off the top of my head here. For people like JTech TV or who else was it? It's like JTech TV and like some of them that have been run out of the internet at one point with reported stuff. Like, a lot of them have had a entire rep sheet of stuff, because the reason why I said JTech is because there were people that were harassing developers, at least on the PlayStation fanboy side. There are people in this very video that are harassing publishers for abandoning the PlayStation platform or the PlayStation ecosystem for money for one reason or another. and saying that the entirety of the thing needs to be Sony exclusives or bust. There is literally a person by the name of Japan Hates Xbox who tries to speak for an entire culture and country that he is not even necessarily from. So, no, I don't just think that the Xbox guys are, more toxic or more annoying. They're annoying for sure, and whenever they get into their sort of conniption and fit, yeah, certainly, I would like to talk about them, but I have seen far more examples of PlayStation guys being garbage worse people. So, next up here we have Mitty528 with everything that plays video games is an Xbox, so no one cares, followed by Aspen saying nobody cares about the Rogue, again, in both response to that saying nobody fucking cares. So, oh well. I guess that's the case. Why comment in the first place? These last two ones here are just interesting notes that I kind of wanted to talk about to just tack on to the end before we wrap up the month's news stuff. I had to include at least some news for this, where Only Good Games retweets a Chris Does It Play thing, where basically the sale of Dark and Darker on Epic Games Store has been removed due to a court hearing from March 5th, the genre of the publisher, and they'll be removing it from the library, at which point it will no longer be playable via the Epic Games Store. Which, again, I find it very weird, but in some cases it makes sense, I guess, where they're doing this. I just think it's one of those things where you don't get a refund at that point, and these guys can just take it away from you. That sucks, and that's totally dumb, and that's totally stupid. But again, this is the Epic Games Store, so this is not the worst example of this. At least if it was, say, Steam, they would probably refund you the money from that for whatever reason, but Epic Games Store doesn't do that. And saying that Epic Games Store is delisting a game from the storefront and removing it from people's libraries. This is not uncommon in terms of, at least for digital games, and Only Good Games comes in here saying that post says it all. I will never believe digital is better, never forever physical, forever true ownership. And I agree. I think that forever actual true ownership and physical games are, while a slightly dying medium, which sucks for a lot of things and a lot of reasons, I still think this is just, digital is a little bit okay. But finally, we have Porter Rock here, basically just going on a sore winner campaign, saying I just keep winning with the amount of my predictions. Like I said, working on emulation with Windows and Legacy, blah, blah, blah. Microsoft is minimizing the backlash of the scenario as they push Xbox console gamers over to PC gaming. Oh, boy. I'm not sure that that's the actual case here. I think that Microsoft's full actual intention might be to try to combine or to emulate some of the practices on both platforms, because they basically tried to move console stuff onto the PC and then got soundly rejected by the PC, not only once, but like a couple times. And now that they're having at least some successes and seeing that the PC is actually, a market worth pursuing, hence why most of the other gaming companies on the market right now that both make games and also make hardware are porting their games over to PC, Sony included in that, by the by, that, at the same time, why is it that only Microsoft gets the shit pull tent whatever, just because? I don't know. Anyway, I think I'm just going to end it there because I didn't want this to be as long as it was, but 2 pretty long videos back to back to back to back. I guess it will only have to say the times now. Anyway, with all that being said, if you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form other than like and subscribe, which is always enough, links down to everything in the description below. My name is GamePeng21, and a peace off.
Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, I know.